Hello again, YouTube, and welcome again to another one of my equipment reviews. My name is Travis, and some of you may recognize my videos from other reviews and things I've done. I'm big into giant scale remote control airplanes, and I have a lawnmower review that a lot of you may have watched. And today I've got a new review for you. This is my brand new weed eater that I got. This is an Echo brand weed eater. So I'm going to go through this thing and just give you guys a quick rundown of this new whippersnipper just to see what this thing's like, what it looks like overall. We'll do a quick run through and I'll give you guys some details that you probably aren't aware of with these things and in general, and hopefully save those of you doing some research a bit of time and energy, and hopefully learn a thing or two in your research. So here we go. So I got my buddy to pick this thing up for me, this Echo whippersnipper from the States. I live in Canada. I actually live on Pender Island with my wife and our family. We moved from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. So it's a little different running engines here at sea level. There's more oxygen, and they require a slightly different tune. With the extra oxygen, you need to increase your fuel mixture slightly, but I'm really excited to run this thing. This thing is brand new out of the box, just as you get it in the store. So you guys can see here, this is by far and above the most popular consumer model. This is the Echo SRM-225 model, and brand new. This is how it would be hanging on the wall in the store. So I picked this up for $199. I wanted something that was 250 bucks or less. And I spent many hours, as many of you know. I do a lot of research before I buy anything. So I spend a lot of hours on forums and reading and doing, all of my research beforehand. And this is the model I came up with. Just so you know, I initially was going to buy a still piece of equipment, but I decided, and after doing a lot of research, that the conclusion seemed to be, in the community, kind of in North America anyways here, that if you're spending a slightly less amount, like sticking to the lower end of a high-end brand, that the Echo provided by far the most build quality, reliability, ease of use, top of the line engineering, and longevity. So I wanted a whippersnipper that would last for at least 10 years, which I have no doubt that this thing will. I wanted something that was high quality, very friendly to use, easy to start, easy to maintain. This thing you can buy parts at any big box store. You can basically find parts anywhere, unlike a still model where you have to go into a dealer and get them to do all the parts, look up and research for you. And so this is the model I came up with. So again, this is the SRM-225. So we'll start at the back here. You can see this thing's never been run. It's never even had fuel in it. I do believe they run them at the factory, but other than that, that's about it. Actually, before we do that, let's open up the box and see what we get. I cut the zip ties just to save some time for us. So before we open the box here, you can see on it, it says it's a straight shaft rather than the curved shaft. It's got the speed feed tap and go, so I'll mention what that is and how that works. This is interesting. It's got a 5-year consumer warranty, which is the only brand that I found with that kind of warranty on the consumer end. Obviously, once you go into the commercial end, there's many. So when I was mentioning about the Echo being the best in the lower end line, a lot of people really like them. The Still was definitely in competition with it. But I decided to go with the Echo because it seemed like it was much easier to maintain as far as fuel and ease of starting and use. The carbs are pretty picky on some of the Still stuff, but definitely it seemed like the general consensus from what I read online from people was that when you get into the higher end equipment, like the high-end chainsaws and commercial whippersnippers and things like that, that the Still was definitely the top of the line, but the Echo was right up there with them. So I decided to try an Echo brand. I've never owned anything Echo before, so I wanted to try it. So that 5-year consumer warranty is very interesting to me. It was the only one I found that has that type of warranty. So let's open this box and see what we got here. I cut the zip ties just to save us some time. So first thing we have here is a Echo safety manual. So you can see it covers the SRM and the GT as well as the PAS, SB, and PE models. So that's interesting. Just so you know, the GT model is their curved shaft model of the same whippersnipper. Next we have, oh, by the way, this thing is ridiculously thick. On the back, half of the manual is French, but still. This is the operator's manual for the SRM-225. You can see it is thick as well. Again, French and English. What else we got in here? Okay, we've got a 2.6 fluid ounce small bottle of their own brand Echo Power Blend X extended life oil. So this is a premium synthetic oil for 2 strokes, obviously, which is nice of them to include. So you can see right there they name it the 1 gallon mix. So the reason it's a 1 gallon mix is because if we look on the back here, yeah, they mention it right there, 50 to 1 they recommend you running this at. That's fairly typical for manufacturers nowadays. They recommend here 89 octane. So for those of you who don't know, usually manufacturers nowadays, especially of high-end equipment like this, will always recommend a slightly higher octane than your standard unleaded gasoline that you'd put in your vehicle for the average daily driver, which is usually 87 octane, just depending where you live. But the reason they recommend 89 is because fuel slowly degrades over time as it's in its container. So they recommend going with a slightly higher octane fuel, just so you don't get pinging in your engine. But also, if it's a higher compression engine, which requires higher octane, obviously you need it. But it's so that as it degrades over time, like if it's in its jug for a couple of months, that you'll still be okay running it in your engine, not have any engine issues or starting issues or pinging or anything like that. Just so you know, you can always run higher octane than this. I fly a lot of giant scale planes, and I try a lot of oil mixes and oils and things like that, and I've even run 100 LL that we use as aviation fuel for my dad's plane, and anyways, it works just as well, but that's a low lead. I don't recommend you running that. You want an unleaded fuel. So anyways, that's what the 89 octane rating is there instead of 87. It's just a safety margin. 50 to 1, just so you guys know, I'm very anal, I guess is the word, with my equipment. So I will be breaking this thing in at a slightly richer mixture, probably 40 to 1. Usually when you do engine break-ins, you don't start with a synthetic, you start with a mineral oil, and then after usually around 8 or 10 hours runtime, depending on the engine and its quality of the rings, basically till the rings get seated, the bearings are well broken in. Usually we'll switch over to synthetic, but lately I've been trying the whole synthetic break-in, and it does work. An engine will break in over time. It just takes a heck of a lot longer with synthetic. But if the engine is of high quality and high tolerance, like this engine likely is, then there's no need to worry about running a synthetic oil right off the get-go. There's a lot of debate over this, and I've done both methods many times, and it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. At the end of the day, you want a good running engine. I do recommend, whether you break in with synthetic or mineral oil, that you do switch to a synthetic at some point in time, because it is higher quality oil, much higher quality at high temperatures where there's no airflow, aka running something like this or a chainsaw. And so synthetic oil is a lot better for higher temperatures, so I would recommend running it eventually. And anyways, let's continue here. So this is the engine side. You can see it's never had fuel. We've got the choke, cold start and run, carburetor. We've got the primer bulb here, the spark plug. This thing comes, and I did check, it's an NGK BPM 8Y plug, which is nice to see that they include an NGK plug instead of another brand. You can see they got shrouding around the muffler and things like that for safety. I'll just turn it over here so you can see it. Got the fuel tank and whatnot there. So this thing is 21.2 cc's. It's a Power Boost Vortex, obviously 2-stroke engine. This thing includes the i30 starter. So what that means is it's supposed to require about 30% less pulling power to start it. I think they just have a different type gear reduction so that you get a slightly faster turnover. It's supposed to start ridiculously easy, even if you're using old gas. By the way, I don't recommend storing gas in a jug without fuel stabilizer more than a couple months. It's just a good idea to stabilize your fuel if you're going to leave it in a jug for months, and I would always try and use it up every year. Don't keep reusing fuel year after year. I'd always get fresh every year, just so you know that. This tank is 14.9 fluid ounces. So like I said again, I'm going to probably break in this thing at 40 to 1 and then later switch to 50 to 1. Do whatever you want. It's always best to follow manufacturer's recommended oil specifications, but really running a little bit more oil never hurts, especially on break-in. So if you want to run a slightly higher mixture at 40 or 50, or 40 instead of 50, that's totally fine. But just make sure you're using a synthetic if you're running at 50 to 1. If you're using a mineral oil, I'd be running at 32 or maybe even 40, just depending on the brand and the quality of the oil. An interesting thing about this is it's a commercial rated weed eater, which was very interesting to me. This is actually rated for 300-hour emission durability compliance. So most whippersnippers and things out there on the home consumer end are only 50-hour emission compliant. Basically what happens is you start to get wear in the engine. Your cylinder starts to get slightly out of round, and your piston rings get a bit of wear on the cylinder walls, and everything just has a bit of slop and wear in it, and you start to lose that emission rating with it not burning as efficiently and completely combusting the mixture. So it was interesting to me that this was a full 300-hour commercial rated machine, which again, it just shows its high quality of materials and engineering, which is good to see. So yeah, that's basically it. It's got the pull starter tank. You can see the exhaust in there. And here we've got an on-off switch here, so obviously that needs to be on. This is just a safety. As you can see, you can't lift up on the trigger when that's not pushed, so as soon as that's pushed down, you can use your throttle. As we go down the line here, you can see that this is adjustable depending on your arm length. There's the minimum line, so they just recommend it be out here for balance. You can see this is a nice steel shaft, which is good to see. This thing is a 59-inch straight shaft, so that is cool to see. By the way, I don't know if I held these out or not, but this included safety goggles. I just saw them in the box here, which is nice. Steel shaft. This has a 4-layer drive shaft cable, which is very durable, which is nice to see. As we move down to the gearbox here, you can see it's all cast, which is nice. It's got a guard here. This head is very cool, and looking this thing up in my research, basically what you do is you cut off 10 feet or thereabouts of line, and you just feed it through here out the other end, so it's centered, so you'll have 5 feet out each end, and then you just hold the base and you just twist, and it will just feed in the line. You just have to make sure you twist it the right way, and you just feed in the line, and that's it. You don't have to take it apart, you don't have to do anything. So that's the speed feed head, what they mean by that. And also with this head is this is a bump feed, so like most weed eaters and weed trimmers out there, you'll know that as you bump it on the ground, it will knock out more line. You can see they include some, looks like decent quality line here. This machine will take a 0.08 inch, a 0.095 inch, which is what this stuff is. This stuff is Crossfire. And it will also take, if anybody wants to run even bigger line, I've heard lots of people say it'll take the 0.105 inch line, so that's very durable line. Yeah, you can see there's the cutoff blade for its length. This is a 17-inch cut head, which is nice and big. It should do some real quick work of the weeds. Yeah, that's basically it, start to finish. I'm really excited to run this thing. So because I already, you can see over there, mixed up 5 liters of, I bought premium, so 91 octane fuel. This little bottle is only for a gallon, so I filled up almost 1.5 gallons of fuel there, so I don't want to run this obviously at 60 or 65 to 1. I want to run it at 50, and probably I'll run it at 40, so I grabbed a couple bottles of my still full synthetic oil that I run in my giant scale planes. This is great oil, by the way, for anybody wondering what the best oil out there is. In my experience in trials and testing, this by far and above is the best oil I've ever had. This stuff is just awesome. So anyways, it's not cheap. This stuff is, I believe I'm paying $6 or $7 for a 200 ml little jug. So it's pricey, but that's what you get for buying the best. Now there's going to be people that have their preference. Redline Racing makes a great 2-stroke oil if you're looking. I like that stuff as well. It's just hard to come by, so that's why I stick with the still stuff. The Echo stuff I've never tried. I've heard good things about it as well. I have a big preference to this stuff after using a lot of different oils over the years. I grew up on a farm, so I've had a bit of experience using this stuff. So yeah, I'm going to mix up some oil there because I need to mix it at 40 to 1. I'm going to need 125 mils of oil. So this thing is obviously a lot less than that. I think there's 75 mils of oil and 2.6 fluid ounces. So that's why I cracked out my oil, so I can fully mix this jug at 40 to 1. So that's it. That's my Echo SRM-225. I hope you guys enjoyed this quick little review and hopefully learned something. Check out my lawnmower review of my 20332 Toro mower if you haven't seen it yet. Great mower. It's on its 3rd season, running superb. I just love that mower. So this will be its mate. Thanks for watching. Bye. Alright, well, I just finished mixing up my 40 to 1 mix here of that still ultra full synthetic oil. By the way, that's the Canadian version for those of you who are confused. In the USA, they call this ultra, I think it's ultra HP or something like that. They add the words HP, but I phoned the manufacturer still and talked to the, I can't remember who I talked to there, but yeah, it's exactly the same. It's just a marketing thing. So both of them are, the ultra is their full synthetic 2-stroke oil, just so you know. So I mixed up a batch at 40 to 1 here, put it in the tank, you can see there. So let's do this. First try, I haven't done anything. I did flick the switch to on, so we'll do that again. Flick it to on. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this with 2 hands, but I'm just going to set the camera down here so you can watch the starter. So, actually first we need to prime this. So we're supposed to prime this until you can see fuel coming back to the return of the tank, and then prime it an additional 4 to 5 pumps, they say in the manual. So I'll just angle that, so push that. So you can see it's full there. There it's going back into the tank through that yellow return line. So I did it 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, and maybe one more for good measure. Well, let's see how many pulls it takes. Put our choke to on. And I'll set this down so you guys can watch. So I got to push throttle release down. And we'll just give it a little bit of throttle. Well, we can give it full. Move the camera off. I'm just going to set this here. You guys can see this. So there's with the choke. So now choke off. As you can see that, we're set to run. And we'll pull it one more time. It should start. There we go. I'll just let it idle and warm up here first. Sweet. Started with no issues whatsoever. So again, this is the SRM-225 by Echo. This isn't very loud. I'm not sure how loud it is in the camera, but I'm actually surprised how quiet it is. So because we're breaking it in, I'm just going to actually let this thing fully warm up here, idling for a few minutes. And I'm just going to heat cycle it. So then I'm just going to let it cool right off. How you want to break in most 2-stroke engines. I know they don't tell you this in the manual. This is just general knowledge for those of you who are very interested, I guess, in this kind of stuff. Basically, breaking in an engine, there's several methods. Essentially, what you want to do is start it. This is for 2 strokes. Let it warm up to its full operating temperature at idle. This will work for dirt bikes. It'll work for anything 2-stroke. So let it start it up. Use a slightly richer oil mixture. Don't run the carburetor rich if you can. Just set it to run usually out of the factory. For some engines, especially my giant scale remote control plane engines, I need to just adjust the needles first. But anyways, for these you don't need to worry about that. So you'll just start it up, let it warm up at idle to full operating temperature, and then just shut it off and let it cool off for about half an hour. That heat cycling will expand and contract the metals in the engine. So essentially what you're doing there is expanding your piston, your cylinder, and your rings and your bearings, just loosening them up. So you'll start it up, let it warm up, let it cool down fully, and then start it up again after it's cool, and then just do some light work with it. So with this thing, I'm obviously just going to do some light trimming work with it. Nothing too super heavy duty. Maybe for, I don't know, 20 minutes. Doesn't really matter. but just be gentle on it for the first while. Don't bog that engine down, and then let it fully cool down again, and after that you can pretty much go nuts with it. I would just in general with two-strokes be a little careful in the first few hours using them. Don't be bogging the heck out of them and working them beyond what they're meant or even designed to do. This goes for dirt bikes or for chainsaws or anything out there. For me, I guess it's remote control plane engines, but just be gentle with engines in their first few hours of running while they break in properly. And once those rings are fully seated and the liners are nicely, the cylinder makes a nice smoothing of the hones, then you'll be good to go. You can just use this thing as intended. Again, if you're not an engine person, don't worry about anything I just said. Just do what they say in the manual, start it up and use it. Again, it's just if you're really picky about your engines, that's kind of the proper way to break in a two-stroke. So I'm going to let this thing warm up here for a few minutes and shut it off, and then I'm going to use it. Thanks for watching again. Alright, well, I've run it up a couple times, gotten it warm, I've cycled the throttle, and I've done a little bit of light trimming, as you can see there. I've got some grass on it now. It probably only has about 4 or 5 minutes worth of work on it. It's running great, starts first pull every time, and my son wants to be in the video. Say hi. Hi. So we're going to run this up, and I'm going to show you guys how well this thing does. So here, stand over here, come over here. Good boy. So we'll turn it on. And I just started it, so it's still warm, so I won't need to choke it. You can see it starts right up. It's okay. And I'll just show you guys how this works. You can see it runs up real nice. You can see there's a little bit of smoke running, it's a little richer, but it works good. So, no issue. So you can see it does a great job there. Runs really well. Let's do around here. Hey, thank you.
Don't cut this.
So it runs really well. Runs perfect. You can see it's got lots of power there. No issues trimming. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed with how much power it has. Thanks for watching.